In this video, let's go over the Music Rebalance module. Now, this is a new technology that allows you to break a stereo audio file up into different elements or types of instruments and adjust their volume. As you can see on the module, it's broken it down into vocal, bass, percussion, and other. Other can be things like your synths and guitars. So it uses a very clever algorithm to decipher what is the vocal in the mix and allows you to adjust that level. You can determine the quality of the algorithm that it uses, and obviously by going up to the higher quality, it's going to take more CPU on your computer, and especially when you're previewing the audio, it's going to take longer. Plus, when you're rendering out, when you use a higher quality, it's going to have a much longer render out, but you're going to get better results. Then finally, you've got a separation dial. Now, this just allows you to separate the elements further into their types of frequencies. For example, if you want to hear more of the vocal and less of the bleed of the other instruments, you can increase the separation. But it does come with a bit of a twist where it does introduce more artifacts into the sound. Now, the way that you do have to approach and look at this module is it isn't replacing mixing. It isn't going to give you a better mix, but it's a tool that allows you to adjust the overall mix if you can't go back to the original mix. For example, let's say you worked on a project a few years ago and you don't have access to that project anymore. Maybe the files don't open or you used a different piece of software that you don't have. You can take the stereo file, bring it into RX, and then use this Music Rebalance tool to help you adjust the levels. Maybe you found the bass was a bit loud. You can use this to bring it down again and then export out the audio for a better overall mix of your original mixed song. Or another way of looking at it is maybe you're a mastering engineer and you get sent stereo mixes, and instead of having to go back and adjust the mix, you can do some slight changes here to give you a better mix when you get into your mastering. And another way of looking at this tool is you can use it as a performance tool. For example, maybe you've got a whole bunch of songs and mixes and you just want to remove the vocal so that you can perform over those songs in a live setting. Then you could go in and take the vocal section, drop that out, and render the audio out, and you've sort of got like a karaoke performance of your songs. So that covers most of the different types of scenarios that you might use this. Now let's see it in action. So I'm going to set it into preview mode. I've got all these set at their default states at 0, and then the separation set to the default of 38. Then I'm going to preview and do some adjustments. So maybe the vocal is too loud, I'll bring it down. Bring up the bass. And bring down the guitars. Maybe let's set everything back to default, and we want to drop out the percussion. So as you can hear, it's removed what it thinks is the percussion, but you've got some artifacts over there. Let's try remove the vocals. So you can still hear that backing vocal, but it's removed the main vocals. Maybe I don't want the guitars either, so I just want the rhythm section of the bass and percussion. So it works really well, as you can hear. Obviously, you've got some slight artifacts by doing some extreme settings. Like you saw, we tried to remove all the vocals, but you could still hear a bit of the backing vocals. And when I removed the guitars and vocals to have just the rhythm section, the bass and percussion, you could hear slight artifacts of the sound. Now, let's do the reverse. Let's bring everything back up to default. We're going to preview the song, and we want to isolate the vocals. So this is the whole mix, and the vocals kicking over here, and then I'll bring everything down. So bring everything down. If you increase the separation, and lower that separation, you're getting a bit more bleed there. So that's showing you what you can do. You can use it to remix elements by adjusting their different sections, or you can use it to isolate elements. And I was simply using the good quality. If I really wanted a much better result, I could jump up to better or best. But it does take longer to render and preview this out. So just for demonstration purposes, I just wanted to use the good quality. But definitely go in and try out the better and best for very higher resolutions of this algorithm determining the isolation of the different elements. Now, another thing I do want to show you is you have this option over here, separate. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to separate these different areas out to their own clips. So watch this. I'm going to click separate. And as you can see, it's rendering out each stem, as you may call it. So the vocal stems, the bass stems, the percussion stems, and then the other stems, which is going to include the guitars here, into their own audio files or audio clips. Okay, so now that's finished the export process. And now when I click through these different clips, you can see here is just the vocals. Here's the percussion. The bass. And then the guitars. And obviously this is picking up the separation that was set over here. If you went for a higher separation, there may have been less bleed between these different audio clips or stems. And like I mentioned, this is a new technology that uses a new algorithm base. Obviously, with future versions, it's going to get more advanced. So you're going to still have things like this where there's slight artifacts, where it's collecting different sounds when it's trying to break it down into a specific stem. But it's quite advanced if you can see this. But it's really advanced at what it's doing. By taking a full stereo mix where you're not going back to the actual mix project with all the different tracks and being able to isolate just that element is really some powerful stuff. Obviously, one way you can look at using this is doing remixes of your song. You get a stereo file from a producer, you can break it down into the vocals, percussion, bass, and other instruments. And then maybe you just want to isolate just the audio clip of the vocal and start adding other elements to create your remix of the song. So as you can see, it is very powerful. You can do some very minimal stuff by just doing some slight tweaks to the mix to completely isolating elements and using them in other productions. So that covers the Music Balance tool. Now let's move over onto some other modules. Catch you in the next video.